apologies for the cutoff there at the end of the last match. I hit the wrong button. But yeah, we were obviously trying some things here with this infect list, and they didn't really work out the way we wanted them to. The ley lines of Sanctity weren't actually good against the um, Storm opponent we played against. He just went all in on uh, empty the Warrens, and our hand was not a very fast combo hand. And I attribute that a lot to siding out Vines of the Vastwood. It gave us a lot fewer outs in the last few turns against him, and it's possible we should have been siding out something like even Noble Hierarch, since the extra mana is not incredibly relevant. And the pump on Vines of Vastwood, usually he's not going to have too many ways to interact with that. We could have found a better sideboard plan for sure in that match. One that maybe would have helped us win. As for the first match we lost against Miracles, we definitely misclicked to shuffle away a Corrosion Grip that we probably wanted a few turns later, and if we had had access to that, I think we would have been fine. For the most part, I thought Jace was pretty solid, but having 4 Force Wheels in the deck felt a little too heavy. So maybe in order to facilitate Jace the Mind Sculptor, we just have one main deck, one sideboard, maybe even have the 4th Force Wheel sideboard and bring it in along with the Jace and matchups that are going to go super long and be super grindy. I would have liked the crop rotation, I believe, or at least a few of them. I really missed the potential of boarding in like the Bajuka Bog against our last round opponent when he had access to Past in Flames. He was playing the Infernal Tutor version, though, as opposed to the Burning Wish version, so even though Blue Elemental Blast could potentially counter Past in Flames, I don't think it was worth bringing in, and, we ended up biting it to the Empty the Warrens anyway, which obviously Blue Elemental Blast doesn't save us. The third Spell Pierce on the board, I probably would have liked it better as a Flusterstorm. I mean, maybe that's biased because we lost to Storm in the last round, but it is a unique effect that we don't have access to a lot of the time, so that card could have potentially helped us there. The Ley Lines of Sanctity were interesting, but again, our deck isn't one that wants to mulligan to a card like that, and we kind of got it lucky by drawing 2 Noble Hierarchs in the game where we actually drew it later on after our opening hand to actually cast it. And even then, it wasn't even all that great. Our opponent just had the alternate sideboard plan of Empty the Warrens, and there wasn't a ton we could do about it. I would like to experiment a little more with this deck to see if we can make the Storm matchup better and the Miracles matchup better. I thought Jace the Mind Sculptor was a great start for making the Miracles matchup better, but Game 1 is not really about Jace. It's about comboing them really quickly before they set up the lock with Counterbalance and Sensei's Divining Top, and then games 2 and 3 finding a game plan that can fight through all of their hate cards. Miracles is particularly tough to beat because they have so many good card selection options. They have great card quality with Sensei's Divining Top, so they're not going to flood out too much, and they're going to be able to find what they need most of the time. Cards like Terminus are pretty powerful against Infect. I played against Miracles a lot with Infect, and the matchup is fairly close. You always feel like you're about to win as long as your opponent doesn't find X card. And that could be Force of Will, that could be Swords of Plowshares, that could even be Terminus off of a Sensei's Divining Top, and sometimes you just lose. They find the card that beats you, and you lose. And there's not a lot you can do about it. And I find that with Infect, that's kind of the case in a lot of matchups. Like against Mono Red, sometimes if they have Eidolon of Blossoms, you just die. Against Delver decks, if they just have a Delver on turn 1 followed by 3 disruptive things, whether that be like Wasteland Stifle Force of Will, or Daze Force of Will removal spell, or some combination thereof, those cards all interact with you favorably on their front, because once they have a Delver in play and they're flipped and attacking, it's really tough to come back, and you have to just claw your way through all of their disruption and just find a way to win. And sometimes that's not exactly possible. And that's one thing that I'm not happy with this deck, is that there are some games that just don't feel like you can win. You flood out a little too much, you draw the wrong pump spell at the wrong time, you're a little choked on mana, you know, you draw a few too many Force of Wills and you just get grinded out in card advantage. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but I did for I like trying out new stuff in this deck. I feel like Infect is a really powerful legacy option that a lot of people have fun playing, including myself, including Tom Ross, even Brad Nelson. We all have played this deck before, and we've all very much enjoyed it. It puts a lot of pressure on the opponent to interact with you, and I think that's a great place to be in Legacy, where especially if your opponent hasn't played against Infect a lot, because they're going to make a lot of mistakes because they don't actually understand how your deck operates. They're going to expect you to just combo kill them on turn 2 or turn 3 a lot, and that's not always the case. You're going to nickel and dime them a lot. You're going to gain small advantages here and there with things like Daze, Spell Pierce, Vines of the Vastwood, and sometimes, yes, you will combo kill them on turn 2 or 3 because you have a really good draw, and even sometimes have Counterspell or Force of Will backup, or Daze backup or some such, and those draws are something to keep in mind, but at the same time, if you're on the opposing side, you understand that it's not incredibly likely that happens, and so you need to manage your opening plays a lot more with a lot more knowledge of how the Infect deck works. And so if you're playing against an opponent with Infect, and your opponent doesn't really know what to do in the first few turns of the game, that's going to give you a significant edge in figuring out your game plan against them, operating your first few turns, what to dig for with your card draw spells and things like that. So, a couple things real quick before we go. I did miss Gitaxian Probe a little bit. I would have liked to have seen my opponent's hand every now and then. I'm not sure if it's worth cutting the Ponder and maybe a Preordain for 2 copies of Gitaxian Probe, but if we end up trimming a Jace and a Force of Will to the sideboard, that could give us room for 2 probes, and we can mix and match the rest of our spells to compensate for that. I did miss the crop rotations. I'm not sure how to fit all of that into the main deck and the sideboard. I would like, something in the sideboard to really help out against Storm, because I think that matchup, if you play against a really good Storm opponent and you're playing Infect, it's going to be tough. They're going to have a pretty good sideboard playing against you no matter what you're playing. And their deck is just inherently more powerful than most decks in Legacy, and they're putting the onus on you a lot of times to make the correct decision. Like, for example, countering the Brainstorm early on in Game 3 just now, we could have waited, but there was a lot of things that can go wrong if we do wait. And I counter Brainstorm a lot in the matchup with Force of Will because a lot of times their Cabal Therapies come back and bite you and take your Force of Will, and then they still have gotten to resolve their Brainstorm, and you're kind of left sitting there with a dead blue card in hand that doesn't really do a whole lot. Yeah, but I think that's all I have for now. Be sure to check out my article later this week. I might touch on Legacy a little bit, but with the Invitational coming up and being half Modern, as well as Grand Prix Charlotte, I may touch a little more on Modern than Legacy. I would like to explore this archetype a little more, and I hope that you enjoyed this delve into Legacy on Magic Online. The opponents in this event were pretty decent, I thought. The few mistakes that were made with like the Wasteland targeting itself was a little awkward, but I think it's got to be a little give and take, because Legacy is such a complex format that in real life people make a lot more mistakes than they do on Magic Online, because the people on Magic Online have just played so many matches, have so many repetitions, that those little mini misclicks are kind of equivalent to the same thing as the guy who brain farts and either like forgets to play a land, or puts the wrong card back with Brainstorm and shuffles it away, or there's a million things that can go wrong in Legacy. But yep, I guess that's all from me, guys. If you have any questions in the comments, make sure to let them be known, and I will try to answer them as best as I can. But that's going to be all from me for this week. This is Todd Anderson playing Infect in Legacy, featuring Jace the Mind Sculptor. I believe it was a success, at least testing out Jace in general. He did some good work. I was very impressed, and I hope that he continues to be a force in the format because it is such a powerful card that does not get a ton of love. So, anyway, guys, that's all for me, Todd Anderson, and I'll see you tomorrow for an article. Thanks for watching.